Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are chef Don Dickman and soprano Ani Maldjian. Chef Don Dickman was born and raised on Long Island, New York. He went to New York State University near Poughkeepsie, but never graduated. He ended up as a prep chef at a local restaurant, and the rest is history. After 2 years, he moved to LA, where he worked at the Hotel Queen Mary. I'm going to make her a saint. No, Queen Mary, the big, beautiful ship that was in Long Beach. And then when he was at the Queen Mary, he worked his way up from line chef to banquet chef. And of course, there were lots of banquets on the Queen Mary. He worked at pavilions, and at pavilions, I know they always have these recipes that they give out, and they tell you what to buy, and he's an expert on that. And he worked at the Music Center complex. Don, you were with Michael Roberts, one of my favorite chefs, and one of the fantastic restaurants, Trump's, in LA. How did you get the job with him?
Well, I actually kind of happened into it, and a friend of a friend worked there, and I was looking to move up the ladder and get into a more hot-shot scene maker restaurant, which I hadn't really done yet.
He was a hot-shot scene
He was a hot-shot. And I got a phone number, talked to him, and had to do a tasting, actually, in order to get the job. And I had to go to Michael's house and make lunch for him and the owners, which was a very nerve-wracking experience.
So that was great. They were all great guys.
They were great guys.
But you were nervous.
It was the first time I had to do a tasting, really, and it was a big step for me. And I was pretty nervous, but obviously I did well enough to get the job. So,
what would you cook for a chef and for the backers of his restaurant? What would you think of making?
Well, for the tasting at the time, if I could remember there were two things that I remember making. One was my famous, at the time, BLT soup, which was a tomato soup, really, just with some bacon bits and wilted romaine lettuce cut into small pieces. But because of the name BLT, I had prior success selling it, and I knew a little bit about the Trump style, so there was always a sort of a humor to the food, and that was a big part of Michael. So I made that, and I also made some sort of southwestern salad that included black beans and avocado and seared rare ahi tuna, which at the time in the mid-'80s, ahi tuna was a real up-and-coming ingredient. It was kind of new at the time, and to treat it in that way, almost raw, was at the time kind of, kind
gutsy.
of new. Yeah,
it was kind of gutsy, wasn't it?
It was kind of gutsy. It was kind of, I hadn't really done it before, but I felt like this restaurant was so stylish that that's what I was trying to do, something I hadn't really done before. I mean, up till then, it was a little more classical in my training, so it was a chance to open up.
But you never went to culinary school. You learned everything on the job and from traveling. And you talked about that southwestern thing that you made for Michael. He put those kind of things on the menu after that. And the BLT soup reminded me a little bit of tortilla soup, where they put tortillas on the top. But what kind of a kitchen did he run? Because he was always in Paris. Was he bringing you new ideas?
Well, yeah, every day working with him was like a new adventure. It was taking some ingredients that you might have had on hand or that you were able to acquire and not totally sure what we were going to do with them, and it was very spontaneous. And
that was before they had all these oh please, where the vegetables, the fresh vegetables.
I mean, at that time, it was
farmers market is what I'm trying
market.
to say.
There
they
was
didn't
no
have those. No,
we had people that would show up at our back door that would scour individual people that had good tomatoes or the wild mushroom. At the time, that was the beginning of baby lettuce, of special tomatoes, even fresh basil was really like a new thing back then. There was no fresh herbs.
I remember the one thing that he did is he mashed those peas up, made
sweet pea guacamole.
Yeah, and we always thought, is this guacamole? Is this really avocado? But he was very innovative.
It was very playful, but actually the cooking was pretty simple, and it was fun to work there. I mean, every day was eye-opening.
Yeah, we loved it. Well, then the big news came in Beverly Hills. Carnegie Deli was going to come, and you went over there to work.
I went over there, and part of that was because I was not formally trained, I felt like it was necessary to fill my experience out with different styles and different places. I felt that I would become more well-rounded.
And you also, so you were the GM, and then you were also the executive chef. So
Correct.
You had to work both ends, the front end and the kitchen end.
I wore chef whites, and I really mainly was in the kitchen, but I oversaw the operation overall.
And then you went on to the Grill, which is a fantastic restaurant, but simple food again.
Same, it was a step for me where along the way between the Queen Mary and the Carnegie Deli, I had done high volume cooking and a lot of catering, and it was a chance to, again, kind of move up the ladder as a corporate chef and open new locations for them.
Well, they had a lot of daily grills, which was a smaller kind of thing,
spin-off.
Right? Was it a spin-off? And then you had to train people. Did you train the chefs or?
Yeah, first they trained me in their food, which is, like you said, very classic. And then I went on to different locations and opened the restaurants and then hired the chef that would eventually stay on and train that chef.
But once you get to that point, like running the restaurant, which is something that you had your own restaurant, Roca, because you knew how to do all parts of a restaurant, how to hire, how to work in the kitchen. What part do you like best? I think you like being in the kitchen.
Well, what it really came down to is that I like to cook, and it's really kind of about the food. And even though I had done a lot of challenging work and worked for big companies, I felt like it was not really what I wanted to do.
You mean working for other people?
Working for other people.
And one of the other people you worked with was you were executive chef at Ocean
Trails Golf Club.
Yeah, which then Trump bought.
Correct.
But when you were there, Zagat came in and reviewed you, and Bon Appetit was very interested in what you were doing. It still wasn't enough for you?
It wasn't enough for me. It was kind of a secluded location, although a great
Palos Verdes, right?
It's all the way in a beautiful location, and I was able, very high end, multifaceted, because we had a few different restaurants, and I really got to, the owners wanted the best of the best, and so it was fun to have that kind of leeway, especially brand new, beautiful kitchen. But it was kind of not in the mainstream part of LA, and I felt like it was almost in another country or another city.
Because you'd been used to the West Side anyway, and like these kind of known restaurants. But Roca was in Santa Monica?
Roca was in Santa Monica.
And our friends Elise and Stanley Grinstein always came in. They said to say hello to you because they knew you from Roca. And as a longtime West Sider, now you're at Bar Bricks. It's in a totally different area. Is it secluded to you or to us? Or?
Well, it's really interesting in that, you know, the east side of LA compared to the west side, kind of undiscovered area that doesn't get the food publicity perhaps that Hollywood and other parts of LA get. But the fact of the matter is it's an area that's up and coming, and it's been growing and building, and there is a large local group of people that are very passionate about the arts and food, and so I felt like it was a good chance, sort of in a ground floor kind of way, to be part of a movement that would bring that to that area.
Well, those clients come from Atwater Village, which has like a lovely main street with little boutiques and art galleries. I know there's a gallery there called Black Maria that friends of ours run, and they have openings all the time. You draw from Los Feliz and Silver Lake, and probably from Glendale as well.
Glendale and Hollywood, and even it's very heartwarming that many of my West Side Roca fans have made the trek and come over there as well.
So it's called Bar Bricks.
Correct.
What does it mean?
Well, Bar Bricks is a name that is a kind of a play on a winemaker's term, and since we're a wine bar, the term bricks, B-R-I-X, is a unit of measurement that a winemaker uses to measure the sugar content of a grape before it's picked off the vine. It's actually not just wine grapes. It's any fruit or vegetable can have its bricks measured to see at what point its ripening point is.
I see.
So wine bar, bricks. Bar Bricks.
Did you, do you know about wines?
I know a little bit about wine. I'm a kind of a collector myself, and certainly like drinking wine.
Well, you brought us an array of things, because with wine, being popcorn, and I'm smelling it. This does not smell like buttered popcorn from the movie house.
It's not. In fact, it's a popcorn I made first for a wine dinner. It was the first time I ever made it, because the wine collectors and wine fans are always looking for bold things and something that's out of the mainstream for their special meal. So I decided to pop the popcorn in duck fat instead of any kind of salad oil, to give it duck fat sort of the
flavor too, right?
Food. Yeah. Well, duck fat imparts a tremendously great flavor to anything that's cooked in it, and then, because I use a lot of wild fennel pollen in pork cookery, really, which is it's an Italian seasoning.
And you've traveled all over Italy looking for new things to do.
And I found that, and in Italy it's like almost like salt and pepper. And so at the last minute I decided to season the popcorn with fennel pollen, popped in duck fat, and so that when you put that in front of a wine person especially, it's a big wow, the eyes light up.
Well, it is a big wow. Even here, I was thinking it was curry, but you said it was the fennel.
The fennel it's the wild fennel is much more aromatic and floral, perfumey than regular fennel, and it's really pretty exotic.
And then this looks fantastic, different colors of cauliflower.
This is our roasted cauliflower salad that's got green beans and chickpeas in it, and it's got first of all, it's 3 different colored cauliflowers, purple, green, and orange, that we roast in the oven, not steam.
Why? Why is roasting, is
because
it better?
It really does 2 things. It concentrates the flavor of the cauliflower and cooks off a lot of the moisture, so the texture of the cauliflower, instead of being sort of mushy and soft, is kind of crunchy almost, and it's a very different feel, and it's very desirable. And we dress it with a charmoula dressing, which is a spice mixture from Morocco, actually, that contains cumin, coriander, paprika, garlic, and lemon juice, and so it's a very bright flavored salad.
Talking about bright, if you roast it, does the color of the cauliflower stay better?
It stays a little better. You can see the color of these.
Purple, yeah.
It's the purple stays purple. It does kind of intensify everything about the cauliflower.
Can we do that? Just put a cauliflower in like a baked
Yeah, if you cut up a cauliflower, toss it in olive oil.
Oh, cut it and okay.
Cut it up first into pieces.
I see.
Olive oil, salt, and pepper. Roast it in a relatively hot oven around 400 degrees on a flat pan so that it gets to touch the pan and kind of caramelize a little bit. And it takes about 15 minutes.
That's all?
That's all. And you stir it around a little bit. Some of it gets toasted brown, some of it stays the same, and it's very easy to do.
That's a nice thing to do. And the other thing, one other thing, is this vegetable dish.
It's our farmer's plate, we call it, and its members rotate as the season change and as we find things.
So it'll be different vegetables?
It can be different vegetables every night. What I do is I rotate things around.
I see some garlic slices on the tomato.
Those are oven-dried tomatoes, which are slowly cooked in the oven for 2 or 3 hours at a low temperature with some garlic and fresh thyme, and they get really kind of sweet and intense.
And the carrots?
Those are roasted baby carrots that almost roasted like the cauliflower, but after they're roasted, we drizzle it with pumpkin seed oil that we get from Austria, which is a very interesting flavor and kind of a strong kind of flavor as well.
So it looks simple, but you've got all these little hidden
There's a lot
things.
going on.
And this.
That's broccolini that's simply steamed, dressed in olive oil, and it's got an Aleppo pepper aioli on top, which is a mayonnaise sauce spiked with a pepper from Turkey. It's like a chili pepper from Turkey.
And an heirloom tomato, probably.
No, actually, that's a grilled yellow bell pepper.
Yellow bell pepper. Oh,
and everything's drizzled with olive oil, and so it's kind of like a little combo plate of different vegetables.
So those you can have with your wine at Bar Bricks.
Absolutely.
And now I know what Bar Bricks means.
And
I didn't know. I thought it was the bricks on the wall.
No, it's a technical term.
Chef Don, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And don't go away. We'll be right back with soprano, fantastic diva, Ani Maldjian. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Native Angelino, Armenian American soprano Ani Maldjian has been described as having a remarkable voice that is richly mature and full of lyric nuances. I can't tell you what that means, but maybe as we get through this interview, you'll know what it means. She earned a BFA from California Institute of the Arts and completed the master's program at Cal State University, Northridge. Ani trained with the Seattle Opera's Young Artist Program, the San Francisco Opera's Marola Program, the Music Academy of the West, and the Aspen Music Institute program. But she was the Western Region Metropolitan Opera National auditions in 2005, which she won. So, what's involved with all of this auditioning thing for the Metropolitan Opera?
Well, that's a competition. It's a national competition where tons of singers go in and they start at a district level. And I started in the LA district, and it's about 3 rounds in LA alone. And then once you get to the 3rd round in Los Angeles, if you win that, you become the Western Regional winner. And that's what I ended up doing. And then you get sent to New York City, and over there's 2 more rounds.
Did you do that?
So I made it all the way to New York to the semifinals.
That was fabulous.
Yeah.
What do you sing? How do you choose?
You sing 2 arias.
Did they tell you?
No, what happens in any audition or competition situation, the norm is that you offer about 5 arias in contrasting languages and styles. And you always start with the one that you want to start with. So at that time, I started with Se Pietà, which was an aria from Julius Caesar, Cleopatra's aria.
Oh,
It's about a 10-minute aria.
You're kidding.
Very vocally demanding. Yeah, it takes a lot of breath control. So I had started with that, and then for all 3 rounds, they chose O Luce di Quest'anima, which is a very agile, virtuosic kind of an aria for coloratura. So I sang that, and then I ended up winning, which was the most amazing thing. I was like, I think I was 24, and it was the most amazing feeling in the world, seriously.
And had you already taken all these other young opera programs?
I actually had not. I hadn't, and that's actually the Metropolitan competition was what kind of led me into these young artist programs.
Really?
I made some really amazing connections through that competition, and then from there I started auditioning for young artist programs, and as soon as I won the Met competition, from there, all these doors opened up.
So what do? They invite you to come to be a part of it, or you still have to audition to be part of the young artist
You have
program?
to audition.
You
I mean,
still
hundreds
do?
of singers audition.
Oh my
But
gosh.
because I had won the Met, I think people were paying a little bit more attention, you know, and they could see on the resume that I had won. And so that year, I got into Seattle Opera's Young Artist Program and San Francisco Opera's Summer Young Artist Program. So I ended up doing both of them as 2-year contracts. So I had 2 full years of Seattle Opera and San Francisco Opera.
So were you flying up and down the coast?
Kind of.
But it's close, isn't it?
Yeah,
Not bad.
yeah, and my family's in LA, so I was doing a lot of flying.
Oh, that's great though. But Seattle's wonderful.
It's amazing. It's really
The
one of my
opera.
favorite places.
The
Not
first-
only the opera, but the city itself is amazing.
First time I'd ever heard of The Ring, I mean, many years
yeah.
ago, was like, oh, they're doing it in Seattle. And I
Yeah,
went, what
they're
is
famous
this?
for the Ring.
Yeah.
They're famous. They
Yeah.
just did another run in the
Yeah,
summer.
they're really good. Well, does opera run in your family?
It's kind of, but not really. My parents, neither of them sing or have any musical ability. My mom dances wonderfully, so, you know, they kind of have that rhythm inside, but they don't really have a voice. But on my mom's side, her father and her uncles were all really great voiced, you know, singers.
Oh, they
but
were?
they never were able to pursue it as a career or anything. And then
Were they in LA singing?
well, they were back in Lebanon at
they
the time.
were. So
yeah.
they were singing there. I mean, in the family.
Yeah, my mom says my grandfather was known as the Mario Lanza of Beirut. So
Really?
yeah,
So there
that's
you
kind of
are.
cool. Yeah, and on my dad's side there was one aunt who studied opera, but she never really pursued it either. So I'm kind of the first one to really pursue it.
Were they excited about hearing your voice and hearing you go into this field?
The people with the voices, you mean?
No,
or
your
with my parents?
family, your
My
parents.
parents are the most, you know, the biggest support of my life. They're just incredible parents. I
that's
mean,
good.
I don't think they've ever missed a show in my whole life. They are usually in the front row.
That's
Back when I
right.
was studying, you know, they were always in the front row watching my concert.
But how, before we get any further, I mean, you have a little bit of voice in your background. How did they know that you had this rare ability? How does somebody know that?
Well, my parents didn't know. What happened was when I was 9 years old, I auditioned for the school choir in 4th grade, and the teacher told me, do you know that you have a really great voice? And I said, I don't know. So I went home, I sang, it was like the Star Spangled Banner was my audition. So I went back home and I sang for my parents, and they said, oh my gosh, you
Spangled Banner.
my audition for singing, I guess. So they said, wow, you really do have a great voice. And so I started taking some classes and that kind of thing. And I was actually only singing pop. I didn't even get into opera until I hit college years.
Oh, is that
So
right?
I started
so
out
through
singing
high
pop.
school?
Yeah, I was singing pop the whole time with a little bit of classical stuff in the choirs. And then once I was 16 years old in high school, 11th grade.
Where were you?
I was in Palmdale, which is
Oh,
in LA.
Palmdale
Yeah.
High School?
Exactly. And so I sang the national anthem over there, and I just, on the spot, I had a calling. I knew I had to pursue singing. So what did I do? I graduated high school early when I was 16. And I got admitted to Cal Arts, which is a really, competitive school.
fantastic,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was the youngest singer to ever attend Cal Arts, which was really a cool honor.
But really, at 16, they let you in?
Yeah. I went in there and they told me, it was springtime. They said, we have no openings. And I said, no, you don't understand. I'm 16. I know what I want in my life. You have to hear me at least, you
How
know?
funny.
So I auditioned with a Mariah Carey tune, Ave Maria, and a musical theater tune. I didn't even know opera yet.
Totally different.
Totally pop. So I go in, they heard the potential, and within 2 years, I had been, I got into opera.
What kind of music program do they have? I know they have a great art program and filmmaking.
It's a
and
really
drama.
versatile program. I got into a program where it was called the Musical Arts Program. So you could do any kind of genre you wanted, but your voice lessons had to be classical. So, it's just like a dancer starting out with ballet,
Right.
even if they want to do hip-hop.
Right.
So it's kind of the same.
And
same
they
concept.
did that there? They
taught me
classical?
classical. And then that's when we all kind of realized, wow, my voice is much more suited for this rather than pop.
Oh.
So that's how I got into it.
That's fantastic. So you do different kinds of things. You perform on stage. in a whole opera, or you do concert, a stage production versus concert. What are those differences, and what do you have to draw on?
The major differences are, if you do an entire opera, you're one character the whole night. So you have to, so you have to prepare that one character, and you always go, you have a start and a finish with the character's climax. So as far as a concert, you're usually doing excerpts from operas, or you could even be doing an, oratorio or any kind of other music with an orchestra. And you're becoming different characters that night, because you might do an excerpt from, Marriage of Figaro and be Susanna one night, and then become Musetta in La Bohème, a minute later or a few minutes later.
How do you do that? You're still wearing the same clothes?
And the gown thing, that's a tough thing, because you're in one gown. So it's, in some ways, it's actually harder, because you have to transform to all these different characters and still be wearing the same thing.
When I see them perform on stage in a concert, I kind of see them going like, I'm concentrating, I'm changing now. Is that what you have to do?
Well, if you've seen recitals, they do this, singers always take time between songs. They kind of turn toward the piano, or they put their head down.
Doing?
It's just a moment of, what is my next piece about, who am I, and what am I trying to say, and just gather yourself, become that person, and then perform it. And so, versus in an opera, the whole night you are that person. There is no thinking. You just are. You know what I mean? So
you're all done up,
Yeah.
and that's it. What about the training for being on stage? Do you have to take drama, dance? What do you have to do besides singing? I mean, you have to be have a great voice, but you also have to do other things.
Yeah, besides singing lessons, you have to take acting lessons. Some people do take dance. I've taken light dance, but nothing amazing. Sometimes you have to take like fighting classes, that kind of stuff. We do a lot of yoga and tai chi to center the body, but also we take languages. As you know, opera singers sing in so many languages.
Yeah.
We study different languages, learn how to translate our scores, learn how to enunciate everything correctly. So there's a lot of language that goes into it. And then makeup, I have taken some makeup classes, but normally the person in the back, in your dressing room, they take care of all that for you. So other than that,
but how do you
not
learn?
really. We don't get into lighting and stuff like that, really.
But you have to sing in French, Italian, English, and German.
Yeah, those are the major operatic languages.
But you take that whole class, in
Well, what you
German
do is normally singers in school will take about a semester of each language.
Oh, they will?
But you don't necessarily learn how to speak it. What you learn is how to take your musical score in front of you and how to know, when you're on stage, how to know word by word what you're saying. So you learn how to translate everything word by word, and how to make poetic sense out of it, and how to pronounce everything.
Right.
So we do know when we're singing, we do know what we're saying. We're not just,
You know the word in German or French.
We know what we're saying, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we can go to Germany and speak it. But through time, it seems like we're learning anyway, because we've been doing it. I sing mostly Italian, so I'm kind of, if I hear Italian speakers, I can really pick up.
But talking about that, there's classes for all of those. But you're Armenian, and you've sung in these Armenian operas, and you can't learn that in a school.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess if you're doing an Armenian opera, you better know opera, huh? I mean, you better know Armenian, yeah.
So you've played the roles of Zavart and Armine and
Zemire.
What in what operas?
Well, those are the operas. Zavart was the opera, and I was the lead in all of them, the title roles. So
I knew you played that person, but I didn't realize that was the...
it was the title role. So it was 2003, 04, and 2008 were the 3 times that we premiered them at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium. And it was a huge honor for the Armenian community just to have, these Armenian operas premiered by Chukhajian. They were like lost operettas. And Vache Barsumian, who's the head of the Lark.
He's fabulous.
Yeah, he's wonderful. So he just gathered all these scores from Armenia, and he brought them in, and he like reorchestrated and arranged everything. It was amazing.
But was it in concert?
No, it was fully staged.
It was fully staged?
It was,
gosh.
amazing.
And so did you know how to sing the words in Armenian?
Oh, yeah, I speak it fluently.
Oh.
So.
Well.
Yeah, I speak it fluently. It was actually my first language. I didn't even know English until I was 5 years old.
Okay,
so.
No problem there. But you're doing a concert at one of the churches in Santa Monica.
Yeah, we're doing it with the Verdi Chorus. It's an operatic chorus that hires young singers to come in and do solo work with them. It's called
They're young people, and you're
the
like
soloists are the young people.
Oh, you're the
I mean,
young
I don't know.
person.
I guess they're all young, but the soloists are the young singers that they bring on.
I
Yeah.
thought you were the one with the seasoned thing that was coming out, and they do that at what, the United Methodist Church?
Yeah, the First United Methodist Church in Santa Monica. It's in a couple of weekends, and the very chorus.
And they do it, so it's not staged.
This one is not staged. It's actually going to be the full choir and a piano and 3 soloists.
Oh, that's
so there's going to be me as a soprano, tenor, and a baritone.
Do you all sing together, or do you each
We're going to do different stuff. I'm doing like 4 arias and a couple of duets.
Are you doing Layla?
I'm doing 2 of Layla's arias from Pearl Fishers, which are beautiful.
That is the most beautiful music, you know. My friend Zonda Rhodes did the sets for one of those operas, did the costumes and the sets, and Isabel Bayrakdarian sang it in San Diego,
awesome.
And then I just saw her sing it in Minneapolis, like 5 years later.
That's awesome.
And her voice changed so much.
Of course.
So do you think your voice will start changing too?
Oh, well, it has. I mean, dramatically, it's changing all the time, and the repertoire that you can start doing changes. But, you know, people say, like, a soprano's prime is in their 30s or something. So, you know, I have a long time to get there, and
my gosh.
I'm excited to be 30 one day.
What is the life expectancy of an opera singer?
I think it all depends on voice type and how you take care of yourself. So if you're very, very light voiced, generally their careers are a little bit shorter. But, you know, if you take care of yourself, I mean, Domingo is still singing. Pavarotti was still singing until his later ages. So,
but those are men. What about women?
Women too.
Women too?
Yeah. I mean, all the singers, the great ones, can really sing until they're much older. So I think it really depends. And if you want to pursue it, you know, some people just want to settle down and settle down with their family at some point.
Or teach.
Or teach.
Or teach.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so who knows what the future holds for
that?
that.
I don't know, but that's great. We'll look for the future. Thank you, Ani.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being with us today on the Joan Quinn Profiles. Email jaquinn1@aol.com and 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles, 90017. See you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.